The coffee shop was unusually quiet that morning, the kind of silence that wraps around you before the day truly wakes up. Steam rose from paper cups, soft jazz hummed from the old speakers, and the smell of roasted beans hung like a memory of warmth. At a corner table sat a single dad and retired Air Force pilot. He looked ordinary, faded jeans, an old bomber jacket, and eyes that seemed to have seen too much and forgotten too little. Across from him sat his 6-year-old daughter, swinging her legs under the table as she carefully drew stars on a napkin. "Daddy, can I draw your plane again?" she asked. Grinning, Jack smiled faintly. "Sure, sweetheart. Just make sure it's got the big wings. Can't have a Reaper without those." A voice from behind caught the word immediately. Reaper. Jack turned. A young Marine, early 20s, crisp haircut, solid build, the kind of posture that said recently deployed and not yet used to peace, stood there holding a to-go cup. His name tag read, "Sorry, sir," the Marine said. "Did you just say Reaper?" Jack hesitated, eyes flicking toward Ellie. "Old call sign," he said quietly. The Marine blinked, then almost dropped his coffee. "Wait, Reaper 1, from Kandahar. No way." Jack's brows furrowed. He wasn't used to strangers recognizing him anymore. "That was a long time ago, son," but Coleman was already shaking his head, stunned. "Sir, you saved my squad." Even Ellie stopped coloring. The young Marine set his cup down with trembling hands. "You don't remember me. I was just a lance corporal then. But Reaper 1 was the reason we made it out of the ridge alive." Jack's throat tightened. That ridge. The ambush. The night sky burning orange. He tried to forget that day. The frantic radio chatter, the chaos below, and the words, "Danger close," cleared hot. His drone strike had turned the tide of a doomed mission, but it had also ended lives, both enemy and otherwise. He forced a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Glad you made it home, Marine." Coleman nodded, still staring like he'd just met a legend. "We thought you were gone. There were rumors you didn't make it back." Jack chuckled softly. "Rumors are usually better than the truth." He lifted his coffee, but his hand shook slightly. Ellie reached out, tiny fingers steadying his arm. "It's okay, Daddy," she whispered. The Marine noticed, his expression softening. "Your daughter." Jack nodded.
"Yeah, she's my mission now."
Tutu Coleman smiled, but there was a flicker of guilt behind it. "Sir, if I can say thank you. We lost a lot of good men that day, but without Reaper 1 overhead, none of us would have made it home." Jack's jaw tensed. He'd heard that before. Medals, commendations, all the words that never brought peace. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a man who did what he had to do, and somehow that didn't feel noble anymore. Ellie interrupted the silence with her innocent joy. "Mr. Marine, want to see my daddy's plane?"
"It's called a Reaper."
"It goes vroom and saves people." Coleman chuckled, kneeling beside her. "I'd love to see it, kiddo." She held up her napkin, a wobbly drawing of wings, clouds, and a stick figure waving from the cockpit. Coleman looked at it and swallowed hard. "That's a good drawing. You know your daddy's the reason I got to come home and have a family too." Jack looked away, but there was something in his eyes now. Maybe pride. Maybe pain. Maybe both. A sudden crash echoed across the shop. A man had stumbled near the counter, clutching his chest. His face turned pale, his breathing shallow. Without hesitation, Coleman and Jack both moved, instinct taking over. "Call 911, Coleman barked. Jack was already kneeling beside the man, checking his pulse. "Sir, can you hear me?" Nothing, weak heartbeat. Airway blocked. Jack's mind shifted into the same focus he once had in combat, calm in the chaos. He tilted the man's head, started chest compressions. Coleman counted out loud, keeping rhythm. 1, 2, 3, keep going. "Sir." The cafe fell silent except for the sound of their efforts. Ellie stood frozen, clutching her napkin. After what felt like forever, the man gasped, air filling his lungs again. Relief rippled through the room like a wave. People started clapping, whispering. The paramedics arrived minutes later, taking over. Jack stepped back exhausted. Coleman looked at him, admiration written all over his face. "Reaper 1 still saves lives," he said quietly. Jack gave a tired smile. Different battlefield now. After the ambulance left, Coleman sat across from Jack again, both men silent for a while. Finally the Marine said, "You know, sir, when I first heard your name, I thought Reaper meant death. But now I get it. It meant protection. You weren't there to take lives. You were there to guard the ones you could." Jack looked down, voice rough. "I used to believe that. Then you see what's left behind. It gets harder. Coleman leaned forward. Maybe, but that man today, he's going home because of you. So am I. My kid was born last year because you were watching over us that night. Maybe that's what Reaper 1 really stands for. Not the taking, but the keeping. Jack stared at him speechless. Then Ellie tugged on his sleeve and whispered, "See, Daddy. You're still a hero." Coleman stood to leave, but before he did, he reached into his wallet and pulled out a folded photo. His wife and baby son. "I carry this because of you," he said. "You didn't just save soldiers, you saved families. Mine included." He placed the photo gently on the table, beside Ellie's drawing. Two worlds, one of innocence, one of sacrifice, side by side. Jack blinked fast, trying not to let his emotions show. Coleman extended his hand. "Semper Fi, sir." Jack shook it firmly. "Aim high, Marine." Coleman smiled, nodded to Ellie, and walked out into the sunlight. Later, as they sat by the window, Ellie looked up at her dad. "Daddy, what does Reaper 1 mean?" Well, Jack took a long breath, staring at the horizon, where the sky met the city skyline. "It used to mean something different," he said softly. "But now it means we don't stop trying to do good, no matter what we've seen or done." Ellie smiled, slipping her hand into his. "Then I think Reaper 1 is the best superhero name ever." Jack laughed quietly. "Yeah, maybe it is." He looked out the window again, a faint smile playing at the corner of his lips, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel the weight of his past. He just felt peace. That evening, the barista found something left behind on the table. A napkin with a child's drawing of an airplane, and beneath it, a note scrawled in neat handwriting. "Chwa, to the man who once guarded us from above, thank you for still watching over us down here. CPL, James Coleman." The barista pinned it to the community board near the counter. And for months afterward, every veteran who walked in stopped to read it, some saluting quietly, others smiling through tears. Because Reaper 1 had become more than a call sign. It had become a symbol that even after the battle ends, kindness is the mission that never does. Sometimes, the greatest acts of heroism don't happen on the battlefield. They happen in coffee shops, playgrounds, and quiet moments when one soul reminds another that the fight for goodness never really ends. Because every person, no matter how broken or burdened, carries the power to save someone, even if it's just through kindness. And that is the legacy of Reaper 1.